Let's make this year your best real estate investing year ever by coming to the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference is where you can join hundreds of real estate investors and over 40 plus expert investor speakers and learn how to have amazing success in your real estate investing business. The Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference is not like any other conference out there. This is a no sales pitch conference where the entire 3-day event is all about you and helping you meet expert investors, teaching you how to invest, and join a community of hundreds of like-minded real estate investors. And because you're part of the Master Passive Income podcast, I'm giving you 20% off your Rubicon Pass. That's right. Get 20% of your Rubicon Pass by using the promo code MPI20. MPI20. You need to be at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. Join us in the heart of downtown St. Louis, April 10th through the 12th, 2025, for a transformative 3-day live event that's more than just a conference. It's a community of investors. Get your pass by going to rubicon.com, REWBCON.com, and use the promo code MPI20 and get 20% off of your Rubicon Pass. You're listening to the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. Welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name's Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you afford anything you want in life, create generational wealth by investing in real estate and having passive income. And in today's show, I'm bringing on an expert who's going to share with us how we can have purpose in our lives, and that purpose is going to help us to get even more accomplished, get more wealth, and accomplish more things in our lives to make our lives better. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Master Passive Income Podcast, where we talk about investing in real estate with a special focus on making enough money so you can quit your job and live the dream life. And now, here's your host, Dustin Heiner.
Hey, what's up? Super blessed as always to have you here with me on the show. Now, we always look at the tactics and ways to make money in passive income, but we also need to focus on ourselves and how we can change our mindset, change who we are internally to get more and actually achieve more in life. Because if you have the same limiting mindset where you're limiting your potential, you're limiting your growth because you think, well, maybe it's not for me, or maybe it's for somebody else, like they are the ones that can do it, like what was me, I can't do it. Well, when you limit your own success by limiting your thoughts, you are actually setting yourself back so much further. I remember when I first started investing, it was very daunting because I was the only one that I knew of that was investing in real estate. I had to push through it. I had to muscle through it. And honestly, back in 2006, there wasn't any podcast like this that was encouraging me or getting me to actually become better at investing, to have a mindset shift to where I'm reframing all the things that are negative or that I can't do into things that are going to help me potentially get better and better. Now, the talk of goals or New Year's resolutions or things like that really can hopefully get you going, I don't really think that that's the best way. Like that's the goal in life, or if you create a goal, a New Year's resolution, or you create something for you to achieve, well, there's a starting point. Well, I think there's something that's deeper that we need to grab down deep inside of us that changes us, that where instead of just saying, I have a goal, let me go after that goal, well, eventually you might give up on your goal or you might veer or stray away from that goal. What we need instead is a purpose, a mission in life, something that's really driving you to achieve something that's bigger than yourself. Now, I have the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. Obviously, I have Master Passive Income, the coaching that we do. We coach thousands of students now. We have so many students that are becoming financially independent, buying their first property. I mean, getting on my coaching calls every single month with the students is so encouraging. They're buying properties. They're doing what they never thought was possible. But now with the mindset shift that they've taken, that they've made themselves do, and also getting the education and being around people, they're being so successful. But now for me, buying a property is really not that hard. I'll be completely honest. I just bought two properties up in Akron. One's in Maslin, one's in Akron. And this is about $250,000 we bought these properties for. We're probably going to be cash flowing a total of $700 or $800 a month from both of these properties. And it was so simple. It was easy because I've done it so many times before. Now, if I just rested on just investing in real estate, which, don't get me wrong, it's so simple and you can do it. But I need to push myself, just like you need to push yourself to your first property. With me, the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, that is what is pushing me. I looked at my wife, I said, hey, you know, it'd be so much easier if I didn't do the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference because it's so much work. But at the same time, she reminded me, well, how many people are you helping with Rubicon, with the Real Estate Wealth Business Conference? You know, you're connecting them with great other investors to work with. They're connecting them so that they now have friends that are investing with them and companies that are going to help them be better in their investing, and all the expert speakers that are coming that changes their mindset. How many people have changed their lives because of Rubicon? I'm like, but yes, but it's so much work on my end. And like, it's just a labor of love now. I realized that I need to put on Rubicon for myself to grow. I need Rubicon personally because of all the people that I get to help. And it goes back to that initial thought that I had, was purpose. Now, a goal you can kind of give up on your goal. It just happens. That's why people start a New Year's resolution and they go to the gym, and within 3 or 4 weeks, they stop and they cancel their membership, or they keep paying for the entire year and never go. Which we don't need a goal. What we need is a purpose. What we need is a mission in life. And so for me, my mission in life, instead of just having a goal, create an event, a conference, and have 500 people, which is what we will have, I have a purpose. A purpose now is a mission that I'm striving for, is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. And hopefully you are one of those 1 million people that I'm helping to invest in real estate by listening to this podcast. If you want coaching, we have that for you as well. You need to come to the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. That is what's going to really catapult you into, like, honestly, literally a new trajectory, a stratosphere, because you're going to get around the right people and you're going to get the mindset shift, and you're going to be connected with other amazing investors. But here's the big thing. You're going to get a purpose. You're going to get a purpose in life. Your purpose could be your family. Your purpose could be becoming financially independent. Whatever your purpose is, we need to get you a strong purpose. You need to develop that so that in the future, whenever things get tough, when life gets tough, goals are easy to give up on. When life gets tough for me, or the Real Estate Wealth Business Conference, putting on this event, who helps literally hundreds, if not thousands of people every single year to change their lives, when it gets tough, if I just go to my goal, the goal is not that big of a deal. But what is a big deal? It's the purpose. And you need to be at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, and I'm going to give you 20% off of your pass. Go to rubicon.com, use the promo code MPI Podcast. Master Passive Income, but MPI Podcast. I will give you 20% off. I just need you there so that you can change your life and help me fulfill my purpose of helping 1 million people to invest in real estate. And you are going to be one of those 1 million people. And I'm going to be so excited when you come the second and third and fourth year, because you grow so much and your investing gets so much better and you make so much more money because of coming to Rubicon. I have so many people, I literally have like hundreds of people returning every year because of the life changes that happen for them and the wealth that's created and the friends that they get when they're investing. So you need to be here. Go to rubicon.com, use the promo code MPI Podcast. It'll give you 20% off of your pass, whichever one you want to pick. I suggest, obviously, the VIP, because you get to hang out with me even more and all my amazing expert speakers, my friends. We're going to have 40 plus expert speakers there for you to help you become even better investor. Now, I'm super pumped to share with you this episode where I interview a fantastic, he's a MD, medical doctor, as well as a terrific guy. I have my friend Jordan Grummet coming on the show, sharing with us the purpose code and how your purpose in life is going to help you achieve so much more. Here we go. Jordan, thank you so much for being here, man.
Dustin, it's great to be back with you. I always have the best conversations either on my podcast or yours. So I'm excited to be together.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Now, talk to me briefly about why you, because I want to jump right in the book, because most people we kind of understand that we should have a purpose in life, a mission or a vision or something for our lives, but we do it wrong. But why did you write a book about purpose that would hopefully help people, maybe to wake them up, maybe to give them new vision or anything like that?
So first and foremost, I'm a money guy. So why am I writing about purpose? It actually starts when I was a kid. When I was 7 years old, my father died unexpectedly. He had a brain aneurysm, which means he had bleeding in his brain. He died suddenly, and he was a doctor. And I convinced myself that I could make the world better by becoming a doctor just like him. I could fix this cosmic wrong by walking in his footsteps. And that's exactly what I did. It became my purpose, my identity. It became my everything. And I spent my childhood and my early adulthood doing just that. I became the doctor I wanted to be, but something happened. I burned out. And when I burned out, I started looking at my finances and I started thinking, how do I get out of this? How do I have enough money that I can live the life I want to live? Because I'm not loving being a doctor anymore. Eventually, I discovered financial independence. I learned the vocabulary. I realized that I actually had enough money. My parents had modeled this great behavior where I was buying real estate already and was a landlord. I owned stocks and bonds. I actually eventually owned my own medical business. And so I had enough money, but instead of being excited and exhilarated when I realized I was financially independent, I actually had a panic attack because I had no idea who I wanted to be or what I wanted to do with my life. And so instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and leaving medicine completely, because there was no way I could step away from the only sense of purpose I actually knew, I started pulling back on medicine, getting rid of everything I didn't like. And what I was left with was hospice work, which was dealing with the dying and the terminally ill. In the meantime, that freed up my time to pursue things I was excited about, like personal finance and investing and real estate. So I started the Earn and Invest podcast, and I had all these experts, these people like you, these thought leaders, these entrepreneurs, these financial independence people. And we get to a point where we're like, okay, you've explained to us how you make money and how you get a high net worth, but what do you do with that? How do you know what enough looks like? What is your why? And I found that a lot of times the people on my podcast couldn't necessarily answer that question, but you know who could? My dying patients. My dying patients who I took care in hospice, when they were dying, we got to that point where they really started talking about their regrets. And I realized that a lot of us one day will get to our deathbed and we'll really question whether we did those things that were most important to us. And so I took that knowledge and brought it to my podcast and all these business people. And I wrote a book called Taking Stock, which was all about what the dying can teach us about money and life. But the thing that happened, which I never expected, is when I went and marketed that book and I'd go to conferences and I'd give these long talks about money and life and what the dying people taught me, I would tell people that we need to put purpose before our finances and build a financial framework around it. But I would get people coming up to me at the end of my conference pissed off. They'd be all angry and they'd say, how dare you tell me to find my purpose? I've been trying to find my purpose for my whole life. I can't find it. And I'm frankly really pissed off that people like you telling me to keep finding my purpose. This happened once and I'm like, okay, that's a one-off. It's no big deal. It kept happening. And so I did a deep dive and I found two pieces of data that didn't agree with each other. They were a paradox, and it really sent me down the rabbit hole of understanding purpose. The two pieces of data were simple.
And I want to pause for a quick second and share that honestly, I really want you to invest in real estate. Now, my new goal is to help 1 million people invest in real estate. So 2 things I would ask from you. Number 1, if you get anything out of this episode, please share it with somebody else. Just say, hey, check out Dustin and Master Passive Income. He really wants to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. That's number 1. Number 2, I want to get you to invest in real estate. Get my real estate investing course absolutely for free. Text the word rental, RENTAL to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll literally give you my course, show you how to find an area of the country to invest, how to build the business first. I always talk about that, and how to find the right properties, how to make sure you're getting experts to do the work for you, and scale the business to where you're making $250 or more in passive income. Scale it to quit your job. I'll literally get to you, or go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Obviously, it'll be in the description, but I really, really want you to invest in real estate, because the more that actual, normal, everyday people own real estate that are good landlords, the better everybody's life gets.
And it really sent me down the rabbit hole of understanding purpose. The two pieces of data were simple. One was that there was study after study after study that showed that pursuing a sense of purpose in life increases our health, longevity, and happiness. I mean, there are tons of studies. This is very clear. On the other hand, I found other studies that show that up to 91% of people at some point in their life have something called purpose anxiety. It means this idea of pursuing their purpose actually causes them to be anxious and depressed and feel terrible. And so the question was, how do you resolve that paradox? And what I realized is there's probably not one version of purpose, but two. And one of those forms of purpose is probably what leads to all the disappointment and anxiety. And the other version of purpose probably leads to health, longevity, and happiness. And that's why I wrote this book, The Purpose Code, is to describe the difference and help people understand and seek a version of purpose that actually serves them.
What would you find as being a normal or run-of-the-mill type of purpose that most people just shoot for? I mean, financial independence, that's easy. Okay, I just want to be financially independent. Is that something as run-of-the-mill as like that, not as purposeful as something else? I'll give you my quickly, because I want you to answer the question. My purpose in life now is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. And that gives me so much joy because I have so much fun showing people how to invest. And when they change their life, I feel fulfilled. When I bought my first property, it was an accomplishment. It was great. When I quit my job, it was another accomplishment, but I felt like I needed more. I needed more and more and more, but I needed fulfillment. And when I didn't have to worry about money anymore, then I could start focusing on helping other people. That's when I got fulfillment. That's when I have that purpose now of helping 1 million people to invest in real estate. But what are your thoughts on something like that, like run-of-the-mill financial freedom? And then how do we narrow it down?
Well, strangely enough, part of the problem is that most of us are pretty much bred to have a version of purpose that probably doesn't serve us. So most of us actually don't form our own vision of purpose. We usually co-opt it from someone else. And where we're generally co-opting it from is all those voices and all that information that comes at us on a daily basis. So usually the people we go to for purpose are the social media influencers, right? So we're always learning, and they're telling us that we have to have six-pack abs and we have to wear the nicest clothes and we have to travel to the, most beautiful cities and that we have to have a 7-figure business. That's what social media is telling us. And most of the time, it's influencers who are selling this to us because they want to actually make money off of us. But then we have the marketing industry, which is showing us commercials and things, which also are trying to sell us something. And they're showing a vision of us that feels good on the outside. It feels simple. It makes us look beautiful or strong or wealthy. But often the problem with these versions of purpose is that a lot of times they're really, really hard to reach. And a lot of times we also don't have agency to get there. So not everyone can have six-pack abs. Most people will not spend their life traveling the world. And most people will not have 7-figure entrepreneurship as part of their path. So we've been sold this version of purpose that's usually out of reach. And so this is the kind of purpose that usually makes us feel yucky. And so I call it big P purpose. So I said there are two types of purpose. One is bad and one is good. Big P purpose tends to be very, very goal oriented, right? And it's usually very hard to reach. And so it's a little bit scarcity mindset oriented because a lot of the times you aren't the right person at the right time doing the right thing with the right skill set or have the right genetics and luck, right? So if your big audacious purpose is to become president or to travel to Mars or to cure cancer, most likely you don't actually have the tool set you need to do that. And so you're much more likely to end up disappointed. Whereas I think the kind of purpose we really need to look towards is what I call little P purpose. This is purpose that's not goal oriented. It's actually process oriented. So what are the kind of things you could do on a daily basis that fill you up? And what I like about this is, as opposed to being very scarcity mindset oriented, it actually is very abundant. Like there are a million things you could do that could light you up and that could be exciting to you. So instead of all or nothing, it's kind of all or all. It's really hard to fail. And so when we talk about what you're talking about as a version of purpose, I think that's something that you deeply enjoy the process of doing. So I do think you have this goal, but my suspicion is even if you don't reach 1 million people, if you reach 100,000 or 200,000, you're still going to be pretty darn happy. And the reason is every day you show up and you help people, and it's the process of doing this that actually makes you the person you want to be. It's not whether you reach the million.
You're
Dustin
100%
Heiner
right.
is already the guy who does this because this is important to him. So what I say often is that we should be a little bit more goal agnostic. So it's great to have these big goals, but if it's a good use of your time, you're going to enjoy it whether you reach the goal or not. And so I think, again, you're a great example, because my bet is whether you hit that goal or not, this is deeply, profoundly important to you, and you show up every day because of that.
You know what? That's interesting how you say that, because I first had a goal when I was younger. Quit my job when I was 37 years old. It's a goal, it's a purpose. I purpose to get financial independence, but it's definitely a tangible goal to reach. Then I reached that, which was great. I didn't really feel fulfilled, but I felt like it was a great accomplishment. Then I said, after about a year and a half, 2 years of not doing anything, not having any goal, not pushing for anything, I said, you know what? I need a different goal. I need something that's going to help me get out of bed. And I created a goal, and you're going to laugh at this. It was to make $1 million a year in profit from all my businesses. And it wasn't that I wanted the money. It was like I needed a quantitative number that I can hit, a goal to hit. But I kid you not, Jordan, I was so bored and didn't even care. I would just go to the movies, go to the gym, and it would not make me want to reach that goal of $1 million in profit. But what happened was I realized that this was the worst goal ever, because I'm not driven by money. Some people might be, and that might help them, but I'm not driven by money. But for me, the biggest thing that helped me was I switched it to now making 1 million people, or helping 1 million people to invest in real estate. That new goal is so much better, because you're right. Now that you've explained it, now I understand exactly why this goal, quote unquote goal, 1 million people, because more than likely we'll never get there, but at least it's something that says I'm going to helps me to get out of bed at night or in the morning, to get up every single day to try to help more and more people. But it's that process. When one of my students invests in real estate and they buy their first property, I feel like I am successful. I feel like I'm fulfilled. I feel like I won the lottery. And especially when they get what they want, like financial freedom, quit their job, whatever it might be, it just makes me feel so much more alive. So fully behind you. Now, I'm going to jump into how do we, if somebody is scratching their head like, okay, Jordan, Dustin, I don't have a purpose. How do I come up with a purpose? You kind of scratch the surface a little bit, but talk us a little more through that.
So this is what I love, because you started to say, how do I find my purpose? And so this is a big point with me. You don't find purpose, you create it. And this is really important, because purpose is about present and future, and it's action oriented. So I talk about the difference between meaning and purpose. Meaning is about the past, and it's the stories you tell yourself about yourself, and it's all about thoughts. But purpose is about the present and future, and it's all about actions. And so people ask me, how do I find my purpose? Well, you don't find your purpose, you build or create it. It's a very active process, but it is true. You have to find these inklings or these beckonings of things that you want to build purpose around. And I call those purpose anchors. And so there's some really good ways to actually find purpose anchors to then build a life of purpose around. And I talk about them in my book, and I actually give a bunch of exercises, but let me give you a few examples of some ways to find purpose anchors. So first and foremost, there's the way I talked about in my book, Taking Stock, my first book. It's the life review process. So when we have hospice patients and they're dying, they're on their deathbeds, and we make them comfortable, we get their pain controlled, we get them to a safe place, the social worker or chaplain, or sometimes the doctor or nurse, will sit them down and take them through a series of questions that are called life review. What you do is you ask them about their biggest achievements, biggest failures, the important moments in their life, the important people, and also, especially at the end, their biggest regrets. This helps them come to terms with the dying process. But what I really love is to take that life review and actually have young people who are not dying going through it. And this is the reason. The life review can be 10, 15, 20 questions. If you Google hospice life review, you can come up with a huge list of questions. But what I always tell people is I like the short one-sentence life review. If you found out that you were going to die in a week, what would you regret never having the energy, courage, or time to do? So it's focusing on regret. And here's the thing. Regret in a dying person is disappointment, because you don't have agency to accomplish all the things you want to do. But regret in a young person who has tons of time, that's another word for purpose, or it's a purpose anchor we can build it's a purpose anchor in which we can build a life of purpose around. And so I think regret is a great way to start thinking about finding these purpose anchors. That's way one. The next way is to look at your childhood. often kids, before they're programmed to believe they have to become adults and professionals, before they're told who they should be, actually find purpose really easy. Kids go out and play all day and feel connected to the world. So if you go back to your childhood room, what were the trophies you had? What were the posters that were up? What were the drawings? A lot of times, if we go back to childhood, we actually could connect with things we really loved. When I was a kid, I loved collecting baseball cards. I happen to be really busy now and I have tons of versions of purpose, but if I was really lacking for something purposeful, I'd love to go back and reinvest in collecting baseball cards and get involved in those communities and watch the games and really get up to date with that. That could be a version of purpose for me. So the question for all of you out there is, what did you love as a child? And could that be a purpose anchor you could build purpose around? Now, I've talked about two different methods of finding your purpose anchors, but you'll notice already, purpose doesn't have to be big or small. You can have one purpose or many purposes. Purpose I. You can have many versions of purpose. Your purpose can be short-term or long-term. It can change the world, but it certainly doesn't have to. So there are no real rules about purpose, especially when we talk about this little p purpose, which is all process-oriented. So a few other ways to find purpose anchors. Another big one is what I call the art of subtraction. I also talked about this in my first book. If you look at your job, and let's say you hate your job, you're in your 9 to 5, you totally don't like it. What is the one task you really do like doing? Or what is the morning that you show up and you're excited about? And someone will be like, I love doing inventory. I don't know what it is. I'm organized. I really like that piece. I do it 1 hour out of my 40-hour work week every week. Well, at least then there's like something there you love. That can be a purpose anchor, and you can start building purpose around that. So for me, I didn't like being a doctor at all, but the one piece I really loved still was doing hospice work. And it's the only piece I still do now because that was a purpose anchor for me. So I built a practice around that. And last but not least, the fourth way I'll talk about finding your purpose anchors is you throw a bunch of spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. What that means is you say yes to things you normally don't say yes to. You hang out with people you normally don't hang out with. You try things that maybe make you feel a little anxious inside. And if you find that that was a day well spent when you do one of these things, that could be the beginning of a purpose anchor. So finding purpose anchors actually isn't that hard. And most people I know, if you get them to a quiet place, like if you ask them right before you fall asleep every night, what is your like dream of dreams? A lot of times there's something there. They're just too scared to give themselves permission to admit it and to put it into words. So a lot of times people really do know what feels like purpose in their life.
So is purpose, because I love the 4 different ways, especially like as you went through regret, you're looking back and seeing, well, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have done this. And man, that's a very, very sad, to look back at your life. And then people immediately jump to, what do I enjoy doing? Like that's what purpose do I have? What do I enjoy doing? Now, let's say that if somebody has a purpose for, they think this, and just work with me, like, let's brainstorm this. They say, you know what, I want to have more money to be able to afford, not worry about my mortgage, be able to afford things that I need and have more time in my life. And it sounds like I want financial freedom. If it sounds like financial freedom, we don't have to worry about money, worry about a job, be successful and employed. That's the direction I want to go. And right now, I think real estate is the route to get there. Is that a decent way to frame it or view it? And then how so, if not, but then at the same time, how do we get those purpose anchors, those things that get us up day after day to do it?
Well, I guess the real question is this. When people always talk about money and purpose, a lot of times I ask, well, is that a tool or is that a goal? And so a lot of people say my purpose is to be financially independent. I'm like, not really. What you're really saying is I want to have the freedom and space and not have to worry about money so I can do something else. And so that's a big question, is what is that something else? And then we can decide to build a financial framework around it. Now, there are people who love real estate, and real estate for them is part of their purpose. In other words, they would do it even if they weren't being paid for it because they like gamifying it. They like fixing houses up. They like renting houses, for instance, to people who can't afford it or helping other people. They like helping friends and family make deals and make other money. That all can be a version of purpose. But what I always tell people is we need to be clear on purpose first, and then we can decide the financial pathway to get there. So you can find a version of purpose, or I should say you could create a version of purpose that feels good to you. And then you have to decide, what are the tools you're going to use in order to live that life of purpose? Money is one of them. And so real estate, for instance, could play a role. That could be one of your funding mechanisms. You could love real estate, so it could be part of that purpose, or you could be kind of mediocre on real estate, but realize it's a great way to make money and do it, therefore, in order to fund other things. Either of them is okay, as long as you're intentional about it. What I don't like is when people say real estate is my purpose and actually don't like doing most of it. And they get to financial independence, and then they kind of keep buying more and more and more. And they go from 20 doors to 50 doors to 100 doors to 1,000 doors. But they're not really using the money that they're making this to do things that fill them up. And the real estate itself isn't filling them up. And so it's fine if you don't love real estate to build a real estate empire to fund doing things you love. But you got to be real thoughtful, intentional. A lot of people I know who actually do real estate that way actually end up loving the practice of owning, renovating, and renting out real estate. And so I found a lot of people do find some real purpose in it.
Yeah, totally. And if you ask me, well, Dustin, if you didn't have to think about money and you didn't have any real estate, and meaning you had plenty of money and you didn't have any in real estate, would you jump right into real estate? No, honestly, it wouldn't. I wouldn't jump right into real estate because that's not what excites me. It's not what makes me the small little wins or like the purpose anchors like you're talking about. The real estate itself is like the buying of a property. And I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fun. I have 30 plus properties, hotels, and apartment complexes. I have plenty of real estate, but that's not what excites me. It gives me a means to an end. And that end is to have more time in my life to do whatever as I want. And now I fill that time with my family and with helping others. That is, if you're going to do anything without having to worry about money or time, I'm going to be with my family and help others. Those are the two main things that I would do.
And that's a very reasonable thing to do. So again, what you did, whether you thought about it or not, or whether you did it in order or not, what you did is you defined in your life what purpose looks like, and then you built the financial framework that would support that. And that's the point of our finances. The point of our finances is to support these other things to help us live the life we want to live. And so conversely, money is a tool, but it's not the only tool. So even if you don't have money, that doesn't mean you can't pursue a life of purpose, because you also have other tools. You have your family, your friends, your skills, your youth, your energy, your passions. All of those are also tools. And if you happen to be in a place where you don't have a lot of money, you can utilize some of those other tools to still bring purpose into your life today. You don't have to wait until some ill-defined moment when you get to a certain net worth or life stabilizes to a certain point.
So is purpose, is it like correlated, or is it very, very similar to like being fulfilled? Because it seems like when somebody's fulfilled in life, like I feel fulfilled when I help somebody to get what they most want in life. Let's say buy real estate, get financially independent, make money, whatever it might be. That's how I start feeling really fulfilled. I feel like, man, this is such an amazing ability that I'm now able to help people. Is fulfillment and purpose very, very related?
So I think what you're asking is happiness and purpose related. And so let me answer that question because I have a little bit more data on that. So in my opinion, meaning and purpose together equal happiness. So meaning, as I said before, is how we cognitively think about our past. It's the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And happy people tend to tell themselves heroic stories where they went through really hard things, but they came out ahead and ended up being in a better place today. Whereas unhappy people tend to tell themselves victim stories where they were a victim in the past and they feel like they've always been let down today. And so you have to first get a sense of meaning where you feel heroic about your life. And then the second part is purpose, which is the activities of the present and future that you engage in. So that's what I think happiness is. So let's talk about some of the data. So there is really good data about happiness. There's something called the Harvard Adult Developmental Study. It started, I think, in the early 1900s. It tracked originally hundreds of people, then thousands of people. Then it grew from even there. And what they did is they took people. It started as men, then eventually women, started as Harvard graduates, but eventually they took people from the general Boston area. And every 2 years, they interviewed them. And as technology improved, they eventually did MRIs, EEGs, blood tests. They looked at their income. They looked at their geography. They looked at everything, and they studied these people for 80 years. And at the end of 80 years, they came to some conclusions about what makes people happy. So what doesn't make people happy? They found that money doesn't make people happy, career doesn't make people happy, achievements doesn't make people happy, and not even purpose, which sounds like it goes against all of what I've written my book about, but we'll get to that in a moment. What they found truly makes people happy is interpersonal connections. So interpersonal connections are what truly makes people happy. So why did I write this whole book about purpose if it's interpersonal connections? Well, here's why. I also mentioned that studies clearly show that purpose is related to health, happiness, and longevity. Study after study after study shows this. Well, here's what I believe. I think if you engage in little p purpose, you will spend most of your time doing things that light you up, almost in a flow state. And when you're in a flow state and you're lit up and you're doing things that you're really intentional and excited about, it attracts other people to you and you collaborate. You end up forming communities. You teach people and they learn from you. Other people teach and you learn, and you end up forming relationships. And I think little p purpose is a perfect conduit to these communities and interpersonal connection. And we know that is probably what truly makes people happy. So your initial question is, does purpose equal contentedness? I think little p purpose is a great conduit towards happiness.
I love it. And there's something that should go right along with that. And that Harvard study is just really eye-opening too. 80 years. I mean, my goodness, that's life-changing.
They have real data. I mean, MRIs and EEGs, not just questionnaires. Yeah.
That is so amazing. So in real estate, and I try to say this as often as I can because people take their eye off the ball. In real estate's not about properties. Same thing about business. Business is not about products. Life is not just about experiences. Real estate is about people. Business is about people, and life is about people. When you find out how to serve more people, when you figure out that when you put your whole purpose around other people, then you'll be so much more fulfilled and more happy in life, and stop looking at yourself maybe either as a victim or something like that, because when you start becoming a victim, then everything's bad. How about instead of thinking that the world is against you, because a lot of people wake up, oh, the world's against me, it's so hard, X, Y, and Z it's so bad. Instead, think, man, the world is out to help me. There's so many great things out there. Be an abundance mindset.
So let me tell you something that you're either going to strongly disagree with or will blow your mind. So you don't even have to find a sense of purpose about other people. If you do something that truly lights you up, it's going to connect you to other people and you're going to serve them whether you plan to or not. And so here's a story that I tell very often, and it's from my book, and it's about my maternal grandfather. So my maternal grandfather, who I never met, he died in the 1960s and I was born in the 1970s. My maternal grandfather loved math. In fact, he loved math so much he became an accountant. And when my mom was little in the 1950s, she would sit on his lap and he would sit in front of his desk with his spreadsheet out there, because back in the 1950s, they didn't have these complex computers and things. And he would explain to her all the numbers he was putting in his spreadsheet. My mom saw her father, my maternal grandfather, lit up and excited. That was his little p purpose. He loved math. Because she saw that modeled for her, she tried on that identity as a little kid. And you know what? She decided she loved math too. So she grew up and she became a CPA. And when I was a little kid, I had a learning disability and I couldn't read. And so when all my friends were learning how to read, they had me coloring books. I would have thought I was the dumbest kid around, except for one thing. See, I had taken on my mom's identity of math because she had modeled it for me, and I was really good at math. So I was at the bottom of the reading curve, but I was at the top of the math curve. And it was the one thing that convinced me that I was smart enough to move on. And I did move on and eventually went to a highly mathematical field, which was being a doctor. And one day early in my career, I was rounding in the hospital and I went and I saw this guy and he kept on getting admitted to the hospital for dehydration. He was like right on death's doorstep. And I saw his lab results and I noticed a mathematical connection between two of his lab results because I loved math. That was part of my little p purpose. And we diagnosed him with a rare disease. And the rare disease, believe it or not, it was easy to treat with a simple medicine. His dehydration went away. He went off on his merry life, and he was a pastor at a local church. And at that church, he would bring in runaways who had no connection to social services, no food, no jobs. And he would connect them to social services. They are old enough. He'd give them jobs, etc. So think about this. We can track one man, my maternal grandfather, pursuing his sense of little p purpose, just doing what he loved, which was math. His love of math, like a stone dropped in the ocean, displaced a little bit of water. And that little bit of water, that little wave traveled for miles and miles. And at times it joined other waves and got really big. And at other times it dissipated to a small, tiny wave and eventually came up on the sand 60 years later after he died, hundreds of miles away from where he lived and died, and is still affecting people's lives 60 years later. That's impact. That's legacy. That's the power of little p purpose. And so I don't think we have to specifically plan on helping other people, although I think that does fill people up and other people are very important. But even if you just pursue things that really feel like a good use of your time, that excite you, you're going to affect other people. You're going to change the world. And that's what's so exciting to me.
I guess I'll push back just a little bit because when you said you're either going to love it or not, or hate it, I'm not saying I'm against it at all. What I'm looking at is when I say life's about people, real estate's about people, business about people, it's not saying that your main goal should be serving as many people as possible. That's something that how I get filled up. Yeah. Not saying that. What I'm saying is, even though there are people that are different than me, I'm very extroverted. I'm probably on the far extrovert side. There are other people who are on the far introvert side. They're much more introverted. The people that have meaningful relationships, doesn't have to be lots and lots and lots of people, but if they have meaningful relationships with other people, they're going to have a better life. They're going to be more, when you're solely focused on yourself, it doesn't feel good. It actually makes you much more grumpy. When you focus on other people, either helping, serving, whatever, or even just communicating with other people, then you take the focus off yourself. And then you can stop thinking about what you don't have and be grateful for things that you have. So and the little pushback would be where I would say that I love the story about how your grandfather and then mom, and then as well as you, and then leads into this. Same thing, like my vision now is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. And what is so amazing, I never thought this would happen, but because that's my sole focus, my sole mission now in life, it comes across to everybody that I talk to. And now at Master Passive Income, we've got 3 coaches now that say, Dustin, I want to be a part of your vision. I'm not paying. They're not employees that come in and they just want to coach. We have 5 different podcast hosts that I want to be a part of Master Passive Income. I just want to give and serve. I want to help you reach your goal. I've got countless people that help me at my conferences. And it's because I have solely focused, like your grandfather, I'm so focused on what brings me joy that anybody who else has that joy as well, they're going to immediately coming around me because they want to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, because you're lit up and excited about it. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think that what happens is when you get into things, when you discover your little p purpose, it leads you to connect to other people and you create those bigger plans. You create those collaborations. And I think it's a very natural thing. So I think you can start by saying what lights me up, and that's that personal, internal thing. And then as you build a life of purpose around it, you spread it out, you open it up, you bring other people in, and that's that happiness, that connection, the community that you're building.
Absolutely, Matt. Jordan, you and I could talk forever, but we're definitely out of time. But I want everybody to be able to find your book and find you. So we know the purpose code. They got to get out there and get that. But how can they make sure that they either connect with online, find you on Instagram, or whatever it might be?
So the easiest way is to go to jordangrummet.com. That's JORDANGRUMET.com. And there you can buy both of my books, Taking Stock as well as the purpose code, as well as learn about all the places I create content. The main one is Earn and Invest. That's my podcast, earnandinvest.com. but you get connections and links there at jordangrummet.com to basically the podcast, to the Purpose Code Substack, to Diversify, which is a financial blog, as well as I wrote a medical blog for years, and all the links are there. So that's the easiest way to go.
Love it, Jordan. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. And then all these different insights that you get from what you do in life and then putting it out there for everybody, I think is fantastic. Especially, I mean, most people wouldn't even think, well, let's talk to people who are dying and see and learn what we can from them. Your first book, phenomenal. I know your second book's awesome as well. So thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. A blast.
And that is it for today. Go ahead and get my free real estate investing course. Text the word rental to 33777, RENTAL to 33777. You can also join my Real Estate Wealth Builders group coaching. Get all my courses. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next show. See ya.